How do you know if you have a good app idea? Well, that's what we're going to break down today. So if you're new around here, my name is Kristen and I'm the co-founder of Coaching No Code Apps. We help business owners and industry experts build custom apps to either start their app-based businesses or grow their existing businesses, all without coding. So how do you tell if you have a good app idea? This can get really complicated and really convoluted with lots of details and information on validating your app idea. But what I want to do today is simplify that for you so that you can have a really good starting point to help yourself gauge whether you have a good app idea or not. So there is an exercise, there is an exercise that our Built to Scale members go through. This is one of our private programs, and it's all about how to succinctly define and explain and talk about their apps. And one of the key points in this process and in this lesson that they go through is specifying the compelling reason to buy for their app. So the reality is, building and launching an app is so much more, it's about so much more than just the technical, really granular components. There's a lot of strategy involved. And one of the initial things that you have to be able to do is talk about your app in the right way. And it sounds a little bit weird, but a lot of founders struggle with this. And it really affects their long-term success. So this exercise focuses on talking about the compelling reason of why customers or potential users would want to buy their apps. And what I want to do is kind of give you a little taste of this and simplify that down. So I'm going to take a little piece of that exercise and show you how you can use it to gauge whether or not you have a good app idea, something that could potentially become successful, that could turn into a business for you. So first, what you have to do in order to understand, my notes are falling here, in order to understand how to gauge this, you have to understand two different components of an app and of how to really talk about an app. So you have what are called specs and you have benefits. So specs are kind of like the granular, more technical details, the features of your app. Now, benefits are the outcomes of those features. You have to be able to separate these two when you're talking about your app in order to kind of figure out where the needle falls on that gauge of whether or not you have an app idea that you should really be pursuing and that people are really going to want to buy into and use. So let's go through a couple examples of the differences between specs and benefits. So let's say in our app, we have a feature that lets our users manually reschedule their own appointments. Okay, so we have an appointment booking app, and our own users, they come in and they schedule their appointments with us, and there's a feature that lets them just manually reschedule, right? Really simple. Now, that's a spec. Okay, so imagine you are explaining this to a prospective user, okay? And you just talk about that spec. It doesn't really sound all that exciting, does it? Now, let's talk about the outcome, right? Or the benefit of that spec or of that feature. Okay, so this is just a feature that lets our users manually reschedule their own appointments. Now, a benefit of that, again, imagine talking to someone who you were potentially selling this app to or pitching your app to. Okay, with this feature, you are never going to have to spend time organizing your own calendar ever again, right? That's a little bit different, right? It's a little more exciting. Now, all we did was talk about the feature, right, or the spec, and then we turned that into a benefit or an outcome of the spec. Now, when you're talking about this to users, there's definitely a different feeling that that would evoke, right? Using either one of those talking points to sort of convey what the app does for them. Okay, let's talk about another example. So a spec. This might be a feature that uses APIs to connect a couple different services so that they can share info, right? So imagine having a prospective user and explaining that spec to them when you are explaining your app to them. Chances are that's going to go over their head. They're not going to know what that means. Now, let's say your potential user is a business owner who is used to using 5 different software platforms. They're all connected via Zapier. When one Zap breaks, everything comes crashing down, and they've dealt with these problems for years. Okay. Now you could explain that feature to them. Well, we're going to use APIs and everything's going to talk to each other really easily. It's probably not going to make much sense to them. But what if you said, hey, I'm going to combine all of this into a single platform. So all of your processes, your users, your data, it's all going to be managed in one place. You're never going to have to think about connecting anything again. This is going to be a lot less headache, less frustration, less stress for you. That's a lot different, right? That's a lot more exciting to a prospective customer or user of your app, right? Talking about the benefits versus the specs. Having the ability to do that is massive, and it's going to lead you into understanding whether you have a good app idea. So let's keep moving so you can apply this to your own app. Okay, so specs are the processes, all right? They are the technical features. They explain the process of an app or a feature. Now, benefits are the outcomes of those processes. They are what the process enables, okay? And this is an important distinction because most founders, they don't know how to explain the outcome in a way that makes sense to their users, okay? You might have experienced this before. A lot of founders do. This is very, very normal. But what we found happens a lot, time and time again, is that, as a founder, you're really, really close to your app idea. And you are excited about all the specs. All of the specs, all of the features, all of the processes are what are really cool and exciting for you because you're the one working behind the scenes. You're the one creating all of those processes. So you're really close to them. So what we find happens is that when founders go and try to start explaining their apps to future users, customers, investors even, is they spend a ton of time talking about the specs. And those people who they're trying to convey, the reason why they should buy their app or use their app, they don't understand. Or they just don't get excited by it because they're not behind the scenes with you, right? They don't really generally care about the specs. They care about the outcomes. And that's where founders kind of miss the mark, is they fail to understand how to convey the outcomes. So the thing is, and the thing that I really want you to remember and take away from this is that if you can't explain the benefit or the outcome, you might just have a quote unquote cool idea. Now, I talk a lot about how we really want you building a solution and not an idea, okay? An idea generally revolves around a process, and you might have a really cool process in mind that you want to build. And while that's fine, the thing is that users, they don't invest in processes, okay? Customers, users, they don't invest in processes, even if it's a cool process. What they invest in is outcomes and benefits. So if you can't explain the benefit of your app or the outcome of your app, it might just mean that you have a cool idea, okay? And again, that's okay. But you have to remember that people invest in outcomes. So if you can't explain that outcome, if you struggle to really even pinpoint what the benefit or the outcome is of the process you're creating, then you might not have a solution, and you might have trouble gaining traction with your marketing and your sales and your user base, right? So I want you to ask yourself, what's the outcome of your app? What's the benefit? Now, if you can't explain it, I want you to spend time with that. Think through whether you really have a solution or if you just have a cool idea. If you can explain that outcome and that benefit, then you are on the right track. That the needle on this gauge can move towards you having a good app idea, because that app idea isn't just an idea. It's not just a process. It's a benefit. It's an outcome. It's a solution. Okay, so that's what I want to leave you with today. And listen, if you do have a solution, if you are building a solution or planning to build a solution and you want our help, you can go to coachingnocodeapps.com/apply and schedule a free strategy call. You'll schedule a call, fill out some information, so we can see whether or not we might be able to help you. And then we'll jump on a call and talk about how we'll help you execute on your app's development, creating your MVP solution. All right, I hope that's helpful. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.